So it's May 18th, 2022, and there was an article released yesterday, and it's titled, "These top five oil companies just raked in $35 billion while Americans pay more at the pump." Beneath that, it read, "While families on tight budgets struggle to pay the sky-high price of gas, these five oil companies more than tripled their profits in the first quarter of 2022." And this is in a comparison of last year's first quarter profits. And I will share the article in a link. I'll share the article in a link to the Facebook group, and you guys can check it out. And if you're not in the Facebook group, I'll link that in the description. But Shell, ExxonMobil, BP, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips brought in more than 300% more in profits compared to the first quarter of 2021. And sure, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the conflict and war hasn't helped the situation as far as what you and I are seeing day to day, as far as pricing and availability. But that isn't what is 100% to blame for these increases in prices at the pump. Because what we have to understand and realize and remember, and you never forget this, is that it's about money. It's about making money, profit. For profit. I mean, there are a few nonprofit organizations, within the country and around the world, but, a majority of business is based on profit. Even nonprofits make money. That's a whole nother subject. But despite the fact that supplies may be limited, which is what creates this terminology and this fear of the shortage, at the end of the day, they have to make money, and they have to make a lot of money. And a lot of these companies have realized, especially having gone through the pandemic and shelter in place, and basically business and the economy kind of just shutting down for a few months, they've realized that every day and every dollar matters more and more, especially when you could potentially have less to sell or maybe nothing to sell. So, these major oil companies, Shell, ExxonMobil, BP, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, they don't want to just make regular profit. Now, they want to make up for lost time, but they don't want to just make regular profit, especially if they're facing limitations put on them by the availability and supply. And we'll get into why they have these limitations, but they don't want to just make regular profits until they run out. They want to make insane profits. They want to make a sustainable amount of profits in the event that they do run out, and they can go for longer periods of time without having the same sales and revenue as before, and not feel any sort of financial hit, because they've kind of front loaded their profits and their pockets and their bank accounts and their balance sheets beforehand. And part of the problem that we're having isn't the oil, because obviously oil prices are down. But the biggest problem that we're having right now is the fact that we have less refineries. We have less ability to produce the fuels. And that in turn creates the shortage or the lowered supply or the lowered reserves. And, some people say Congress, I got notes here because I just want to make sure I stay on track. Some people say Congress needs to make a strong push for the U.S. to become 100% dependent upon clean energy, basically. And yeah, this is somewhat of a solution, but it is not really a viable solution, especially with the limitations in manufacturing. In addition to transportation, even you got to realize, for us to go to clean energy, we have to, as a society, as a country, we have to change how we operate and how we function. And that requires new equipment, new machinery, basically a retooling of sorts. Let's just go green. Let's go renewable green energy, clean energy, however you want to say it. But there aren't any electric semi-trucks transporting electric vehicles. Every Tesla, every Chevy Volt, every Rivian that'll come out, every Ford Lightning, all of these are going to be delivered by diesel-powered trucks. So On top of that, to go green, we're essentially looking at electric for the most part. Now, there are some other alternative fuels that don't require the refineries, such as gasoline and diesel. But when they say clean, when they say green, we know they mean electric, EV. And to do that, we're going to need technology. And more importantly, we're going to need the semiconductor chips that we're already having a struggle with and a hard time getting to produce even the gasoline and diesel powered vehicles already. You've all seen it. The dealerships are empty. Everything is made to order, and those prices are going up. And then even with that being said, if we go clean and go green and go electric, well, then we're going to have to strengthen the grid. We're going to have to find new ways of producing this electric power. Tesla has plans on producing some form of giant batteries situation, I think out in California, but that's even Elon Musk's highly, let's say his highly optimistic idea of how soon it could happen, we know he's never on time. He's never on time. So you add on that, especially for the West Coast in California, Arizona, Nevada, I think Utah maybe also, they're seeing extreme drought. The extreme drought is lowering lake levels. Lowered lake levels are affecting the dams. The dams are affecting the ability to produce hydroelectric power, thus creating another problem of the clean energy answer solution battery powered vehicle scenario. But even with that being said, even if none of that was a hindering factor in this actually becoming true, you still have to realize that when that day comes, it's still going to come down to profit. And we will be screaming, kicking and screaming and crying and complaining about the new high price. So yeah, there's a diesel shortage, there's high gas prices, food shortages, et cetera, et cetera. It's here. I got you. However, let's hurry up and propel us into the future of an alternative source so that we don't have these problems. But please understand and realize that when we get there, there's going to be a new tax, there's going to be a new price, there's going to be a new increase, there's going to be a new shortage, because this is going to be a growing trend. The easiest way to justify and push out a higher price and ultimately higher profits is to tell people that there's less of something available. And the scarcity then in turn creates this new higher perceived value that will make some people pay for it. It says global stocks of refined petroleum products have fallen to critically low levels as refineries prove unable to keep up with the surging demand, especially for diesel or diesel-like fuels used heavily in manufacturing and freight transportation. And we are down on refineries. Like, there's been a cutback on U.S. refineries, and I think the refineries overseas have experienced higher increased amounts of demand that they can't actually really keep up with in production, in addition to the raw materials that they need, in addition to the transportation required. Like, you got to make the fuel in order to get the raw materials to you to keep making more fuel. It's like a compounded problem. It's like salt in the wound. And with that being said, now, so the U.S. is shipping diesel and fuel to Europe to support them because they can't support themselves. And even they said that in order to try to even get back up to some sustainable level where they can be somewhat sufficient on their own without the U.S. propping them up, would require pretty much like 24/7, 365 around the clock production, no downtime, and foregoing routine shutdowns and maintenance and things like that. That's not going to be good. That would be like saying, look, I need more money. I need to make more money. So I need to work more. So I need to work more jobs. So I'll just work 24 hours a day, never sleep, never stop. And that's not possible. It's not sustainable, not for long. And with that being said, if we were to see, and this is kind of like the precursor to the next big news event, the next big problem, and I'm not trying to put this out there like it should happen or whatever, but I want everybody to be prepared and be mindful of what could happen. And this could possibly pop up in the news really soon, just for the fact that these companies, they work together. They understand now that their teamwork, their network. Now, granted, this would be considered some form of collusion, prior to creating a monopoly, but this could be considered collusion, which is technically illegal. But if they get together and say, hey, look, the less supply we have, the more money we can make. The less supply we have, the more we introduce and present this shortage scenario, the more profit we can make by doing less work. They may start to kind of say, all right, well, how can we manufacture panic and chaos and crisis and drive the price up? And I'm not saying that they will, but I'm just saying it's possible. We got to understand and realize that this could really happen. And if we were to see just one refinery go down, we would be in some serious pain. And I mean, I'm talking like, we've seen Walmart distribution centers catch on fire. We've seen now recently semi trucks catching on fire, even one semi truck full of potatoes. It's like our food source and our transportation source is now being hurt by these mysterious fires. I think there was another story yesterday with like 4 or 5 semi trucks just burning, which I don't know if that is like profit related as far as the companies, the big corporations, or if it's some of these owner operators or some of these smaller businesses with these fleets of trucks looking at it like, hey, look, it's going to be faster, cheaper, better for us to file a claim, get out of these liabilities, get out of these debts, collect and move on, because the price of diesel and the possibility of no diesel available can really hurt us in the long run. Maybe now we cut our losses, maybe now, I'm not saying that people are doing it, but I'm just saying that it is a possibility. But, we've had several food processing facilities catch fire and ultimately stop production, cease production temporarily, or just shut them down altogether. And if we were to actually see a hit to the refineries, that would probably be one of the most painful things that we could experience as a country, because the limited supply, the lower surplus, the lower stockpile that the country has is going to be further depleted because it can't be replenished as fast as it once was. And that's where we are right now, kind of, is that the shortage, the diesel shortage is kind of becoming such because we have less refineries able to replenish. So reduce that down, one more refinery, 2 more refineries, and we could see a total economic collapse that would be like none other. It wouldn't be just the East Coast is running out of diesel. It would be bad. It would be really bad. Like, it would be dangerous. It would be dangerous to be outdoors, let alone the fact that you can't go places and travel, and or you couldn't go places to buy food and groceries and necessities because they're just not getting transported because the diesel's not there. It would be like Mad Max, basically. Like fuel would be so valuable. Not to say that it's more valuable than someone's life, but you see what I'm saying? We would get to a situation where it would end up that way because people are crazy. But we got to remember, profit is what's most important to large corporations and businesses, and we have to expect them to get it at all costs. And these costs are, between, from you and I, they're going to make their money, and we're going to be the ones that suffer because of it. So all we can really do is, one, continue to stay educated, stay positive, number 2, and, work together and have different ways of combating the obstacles that we are going to face, whether it is an alternative fuel source, maybe carpooling, or traveling less, or growing your own food. We have to be mindful of what is to come, because I truly believe that it's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And I want to say before it gets better, but I'm just going to leave that it's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse, unfortunately. Just being real, just being honest. But I will put the links. I have 2 articles that I read to bring you most of this information. And I will link that in the Facebook group. I appreciate everybody who's joined so far. Please continue to dialogue and share information with one another within the group. I want it to be a very helpful tool to everybody, and I will bring you guys another update real soon. I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, comment below, share it with friends and family, and be safe. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye.